All right, ladies and gentlemen, game number 1 in the semifinals starting right now. The winner of this, of course, will go on to fight against the combination of BC Cutie and Bunny. But they got to play each other first here. In the top right, we've seen them several times today. And once more, we come across majOr and DeMusliM.
In the bottom left, as the pink Protoss, it is SlayerSBoneR and Bales. It's Caliber and Bales.
So a lot of people have been, this one person, Hoofprint09, and a couple other people have been pretty obsessed with the laundry behind me in my room. But funny thing is, when you look at my camera, there's not a lot of actual dirty laundry. It's just my cover. I didn't make my bed. I have like 3 layers of covers. Get over it. Like, this is why specifically I miss my green screen sometimes. But the trouble of having my green screen up is not worth it.
There. I don't know. It's like you see us for, let's say, a minute because we go to ads. Maybe 2 minutes between best of 3s and then after game 2. I'm not going to do the math, but you see us for maybe, let's say, 30 minutes of the 4 or 5 hour broadcast. Do you really care that much?
I know, like, the obsession is real. But okay, now we've seen these guys take on Night End and Lightning earlier, and I do want to note that Night End and Lightning, A, native to Europe, so no latency issues, and B, very good Protoss players, just in general. Caliber and Bales, they might rock the North American region, but I really feel, and this is going to be incredibly offensive, and I apologize to the fans out there of them, I don't know that they're going to stand up to DeMusliM and majOr. Just because of the TvP we already saw. If this was a blind series and we hadn't seen anything else and it was the first best of 3 today, I'd be talking a bigger game for Bales because of how good Bales has been looking recently. But this is going to be, I think, on the Protoss and really tough for them to take this series.
Yeah, I agree. I think DeMusliM and majOr is going to take it here. Besides a little bit because Protoss in general are having trouble, sure. And we don't usually see these guys in the finals, although, hey, hype mana for tomorrow. But also that's, Caliber has been playing kind of funky, kind of weird. Occasionally he'll actually play like serious and not cannon rush you, but he seems like he's more just a lot having fun. Bales, he's obviously a college student, that's why we cast him in the CSL, so he's not just going to be, that same potential dedication that majOr and DeMusliM do. I actually don't know their life. I don't know if they don't play at all or they play tons.
You don't know me? You don't know my life?
I'm pretty sure majOr has this whole thing about Pokemon, but maybe still doesn't play as much as Bales.
I do want to once again bring up the concept of the prize pool really quick, because it is worth noting all 4 players in this current game have earned money today. Nobody at this point walks away with less than $50 in their team's pockets. And, of course, the winning team will go on to fight against where most of the money is. Beastie and Bunny versus whoever wins here, fighting for the difference of $300 and $100 each. So, again, a very generous prize pool made possible thanks to Gnomejon. So if you guys haven't already, just like if you see him in chat, give him some love. He is a big supporter of the Archon modes.
Yeah. So, I say that I think majOr and DeMusliM will win. That will mean a TvT finals. But apparently, Caliber and Bales have some sneaky builds up their sleeve. This isn't unheard of, but it is a bit sneakier to go for 2 base disruptor drops.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if they'll prioritize the disruptor or the... I guess the Warp Prism's already in the way, but Warp Prism's speed, because they don't have a lot of gas right now. They certainly won't be able to start a disruptor and speed simultaneously.
I think just go for the disruptor and then eventually get speed. Even if you do eventually get speed. Obviously, it's going to make it a lot easier to control, but hopefully with an Archon partner, it's...
I was going to say, with Archon mode especially, this Warp Prism should have speed. It'll be almost impossible to deal with. Warp Prisms natively outrun Vikings. You give them speed, it's that much worse. The Reaper does it scout? Oh, hang on, let's check the vision. Did it see this, though? They scan. They don't see anything too crazy, though. This is what they needed to see over here.
Yeah, they still only see that one disruptor. And they're not going to be able to see it pop out either. That's pretty interesting. We'll see how they're able to defend if they're going to get completely caught off guard. It is important to note that, there's a Widowmine drop on the way, but also
I was talking about
SlayerSBoneR and the team, I'll get to that afterwards. This Archon team did just defeat Kelazur's team 2-0, so they're actually well rehearsed in PvT as well.
Alright. Widowmine does get taken out, so drops denied. We got the Warp Prism heading out across the side of the map. Quickly before the action picks off, $50 friggin'
to each of us.
DC Monster 821 says, "Hey guys, please PM me when you have a moment. I would like to sponsor a tournament on BaseTrade's behalf. Thanks for all the content."
Oh,
Oh,
I got a different guy. Alaska Winter 923 donates $50 and says, "You guys are awesome. Love your show."
Yeah, he said
I
to
thought
check our individuals. So
Oh, you just. Oh, okay. I thought that's what you were looking at.
no.
Mabi.
So DC. Ooh, no cancel gets a kill.
Oh, no.
Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, well, the probe gets picked off as well. It's just a little bit messy. The Disruptor got an okay bit of damage on the other side of the map, but the concept, the base concept behind Disruptor drops is you're supposed to keep the Terran players from harassing you. These aren't really capable of getting a lot of damage unless the Warp Prism warps in adepts.
Oh, they
Like,
got nothing.
That one hit nothing.
Oh, dear God.
The SCV scatter was pretty good too. We got the Vikings now coming in, so we're going to be able to drive this off, and this ends up being a fantastic start for our Terran team.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. This is
Killing that Nexus was huge.
complete rebuttal of what Caliber and Bales were attempting to do, and now they're in quite a difficult position because you really. The problem with disruptors is that Terrans have gotten really good against them. They know how to split against them. They know like the cooldown and what to expect. They know to be a little more careful when following up. Once you see the attack come through, that one didn't even reach. So attention. Whoever's micing the disruptors is certainly making a lot of mistakes. I'm not going to pin it all on him, but I think both the micro and macro players made mistakes. Lack of the cancel, lack of the warp isn't doing any damage. Seems like majOr and DeMusliM are in a much better position. Oh, wow. Did they target fire that Stalker?
I believe they did. The Disruptor got shot next, so the Disruptor does go off on the Marines. This looks like this will finally push this back, but losing the Disruptors is costly. This is not an easy set of losses.
Yeah, 2 Disruptors go down. And they have a worse problem than Colossus, in that they are something that needs to be buffered with units. You can't just have them alone. And even if you do have the count of 4 or 5, so there's continuous throwouts of their attack, it's still something that Terran can deal with. There's nothing else to protect them.
So I just want to respond to that guy who donated for the tournament $50. DC Monster, I know you've asked us to PM you, but because I am very ADD and very bad at remembering to do things, I would request that you PM us on the channel, and I will reply to you ASAP. Because the thing is, this donation is wonderful, it's generous, it's excellent, but the second we get out of this game, I'm going to have forgotten about it, and then I will not PM you, and then you'll be upset, and it gets awkward. So send us a message here on Twitch, and I'll make sure to follow up on it as soon as I can.
Only gets 4 workers that time, a little bit better, but there's a drop in the main too. It's going to get the Mothership Core. Worth,
definitely worth.
Yeah, that army supply counts, the SCV counts, all is up for majOr and DeMusliM. Their upgrades are also looking better, and they just have to wait for that one final push. Now, with the Disruptor count still being fairly high after losing 2, at 4 going on to 5 right now, they still have to be careful with their push, but that's where the Liberators are really going to help out too. Because so many Disruptors have been made that really took away from their gas, so they're able to fit in Blink. They don't have Resonating Glaives, they don't have Charge, they don't have like feedbacks from High Templars, and they barely have upgrades. This +1 armor just finishing.
So let's talk about the element of Disruptors for a moment. You know, we've talked about Colossus a lot today, and one of the problems with Disruptors is they just don't really force a position out of Liberators, whereas Colossus do. You have to have those Siege Up ready to shoot them, or be an anti-armor to shoot them. Disruptors don't force that at all. Disruptors are stuck, rooted in the back. They're not good at taking positioning, and their shot is on such a long cooldown. The Liberators really are going to reign supreme in this position. It's not impossible for them to get Colossus at this point, but I don't think they're thinking on it either, because the Colossus is not exactly a direct counter to Liberators, but it's a really useful unit to force your Terran opponent into different positions in unsiege, re-siege, etc.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you need more than 1 Colossus. You need more than 2, actually. 4 seems to be the pretty perfect amount. That would take a long time to get up to. Even with double Robo, that's a lot of gas to put into it. They are going to get the additional tech here, Charge, more upgrades, but at the same time, majOr and DeMusliM increasing their army supply lead, now getting Liberator range is really going to help. Whew.
If they can land a couple of money shots with these Disruptors, it's going to be good, but getting that opportunity is not going to be there. They move into the army, the Disruptors just get focused, they get a couple of decent shots, but not worth losing the Disruptors over.
Yeah, that was a very bold choice by whoever did that, to actually snipe down 5, I think, Disruptors at once. And of course they did lose a chunk of their army, but certainly worth, because they had to restart the Disruptor counts. The Liberators are not having a good time over here, by the way. There's cannons protecting specifically against Liberators, but also against drops.
That's where the... Oh, it's not 4 Marauders, excuse me. Wouldn't mind. That's actually a terrible drop for what's here. See, if they drop Marauders, they'll take out cannons. That won't be a problem.
Yeah. Well, seriously, all you can do is just go up to the main. Like,
So-
this happens all the time in TvT, PvT, like, you know, there's this little spot in the main that they don't ever cover, but they cover the natural real well.
So there's some remarks made in chat about like comparing disruptor control to other people, and I will say, like, yeah, Puck is definitely someone to mention. Neve as well, both players who, I think you put them on the same Archon mode team, same situation, you see very different damage go down. Landing party comes in, Cannon's going to get taken out pretty quick. The Liberators do live, and we're going to have Widowmines follow the back end of this. Now, Disruptor's going to scare this army back a little bit, but not quite in range. And of course, let's not forget the Gnomejon pick up and run away. That's what the Disruptors are trying to prevent from happening with those shots, but do kill a good chunk of the bio. But those Disruptors get focused so quickly by the Liberators.
Yeah. The Stalkers only do so well against them. There's a very low count,
They're not
and
gonna
this
clean
is
it
just
up.
looking bad. A third base is also
You
under
can't kill
attack.
the last
I believe it is
Liberator.
the entire army. Oh dear. Oh no.
Oh, well, that's the power of Disruptors. You can throw a game to Disruptors.
Yeah. They're not close to throwing it yet. They're still double the supply, and our Pro team is just going to tap out.
GG. All right, game
They-
number 1 goes to majOr and DeMusliM.
They had a terrible start, though. Like, that
They
was
really
the
did.
most unlucky start. Should look a lot better in the next game. Not that I think they'll win, I just think it'll look better.
I'll second that opinion. Where with the start, really, like the end of the game looks sillier than it should have because of the way it started. You know, they got that disruptor hit, had 0 SCV kills, for example, no pressure applied to the other side of the map. But the biggest thing was that Nexus dying. That's 400 minerals you really don't have early on.
Yeah, that was quite expensive. The next map will be Dusk Towers, another big map. And if we go to the third, it'll be Ruins, so... Poor Arena's not getting any love.
I don't blame it, especially TvP. That should be the first map Terran players veto, in my opinion. Apparently, chat was having issues for people, Twitch support just reporting in on it, but apparently it's been fixed. So if anyone was listening to the cast and having trouble with chat, you should be able to see it now. Just refresh. I will say that is, for all the problems Twitch has, I do like that they're very up to date on letting people know what's going on, so people aren't just sitting in the dark confused, like, why does none of my shit work?
Yeah. Need the other team to have someone say go.
Yeah, we'll give him a second. It's not a super rush. Of course, we got a best of 5 grand finals coming up after this. Alright, so I didn't get to check it earlier because it required logging in, logging out, doing all this, but I managed to do it on my phone finally. Just took several games to do it. Feels like. But Alaska Winter, who donated a little bit earlier, he also sent me $50 and says, "You guys are awesome. Love your show." So thank you very much, Alaska Winter. I cannot tell you how generous that is. Thank you. But it is game number 2 as we get into the semifinals. Reminder, the winner of this will, of course, go on to fight against Beastie and Bunny, who are gunning for that first place spot. In the top right side of the map, it is going to be the Archon combination of majOr and DeMusliM.
In the bottom left, as the pink Protoss, it's Caliber and Bales.
A.K.A. SlayerSBoneR.
A.
It's such a stupid name, but I love it. It doesn't show up on the overlay because of the sponsor logos.
It does not. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, comments about like how that game went. We could talk for days about like skill versus no skill, Protoss balance and whatnot. But just in general, I really liked the concept. I like the idea. The execution clearly wasn't quite there, but I really liked what the Protoss team did.
It was a good idea.
There's been so many games that we've seen on North America, against pros, where that move wins games. The disruptor trap, excuse me, because it just buys so much time and keeps the Terran players from pushing and yada yada yada. So, again, I do not at all have any problems with the way they chose to play. It's just unfortunate the execution and such went. Like, that Liberator Marine aggression too. That doesn't come from a lot of other players. Like majOr and DeMusliM, very few players would be aggressive enough to do that.
What's funny is that if they actually had scouted it, because they scanned and missed the Disruptor and missed the Robotics Bay, they probably would have been a lot more defensive and still might have won the game, but it would have not been because they killed a Nexus straight up and then contained the Protoss on 2 bases. So, just tiny things, and, well, proxy things. The SCV was scouted, however, so they might actually just cancel that.
What?
Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
Just, it was, just not far along, so why not cancel it? So it does take away some of the gas and minerals as you do cancel, but worth not having it controlled and surrounded.
I do want to give some credit to Mana, here. He's not playing today, but Mana showed us really the power of scouting versus Terran when it came to probes, when it came to reality, when it came to most of his matches. Again, to get him to the finals of the Ting Open. And I'm not saying it's bad. They got to probe across the map. They got to poke around, but it's not alive. It's not still sitting there setting up a pylon. And it feels like not a lot of players are playing that, I don't know, that dedicated. And when you're in an Archon mode team, when you've got one player who could just devote all of his attention, you'd think the scouting would be a little bit better. I hesitate to say better because it's not like the scouting was bad, but better for sure.
Well, the proxy factory was canceled. I'm not sure how much Calibur and Bales would really read into it too. So we do have a third CC on the way very quickly for our Terran. So a little bit of aggression followed up by a lot of macro. If they were to be hit by like a 2-base all-in right now, they would be in a lot of trouble. But they're banking on the fact that it's unlikely, first of all. We just don't see too many 2-base all-ins. Even though I think that the Warp Prism aggression is still pretty popular. 4 or 5 gateways and that Warp Prism. They think that they'll be able to deal with it if it is on the way. And hoping that it's not. It is just a Stargate, so this is going to be harassment first and foremost, not something that can kill a third CC. And it looks like majOr and DeMusliM will be able to get away with this greed and actually scan to ensure they can be able to get away with it. Oh, they missed the Stargate.
Well, Phoenix are a bit fickle in TvP. I think they're actually my favorite to see, but unfortunately not the easiest to necessarily pull off. When it comes to this, there's always that early game weakness. And unlike ZVP, we talked about the merits of Archon mode being like, oh yeah, the Phoenix will never be AFK. But there's no situation where ZVP relates back to TVP, where you've got like 15 Phoenix, and you're hoping they don't get picked off. Usually you've got a decent amount, you're moving for Colossus, but the problem still remains you have a weak anti-ground to start.
Yeah. And is it really going to be Phoenix Colossus? We saw Youngsik actually experiment with this back when he was appearing in 1 or 2 Lima leagues, and he was just, he always does Phoenix, so he was trying to make it work, but Colossus at that time actually weren't figured out too well either, so he was kind of trying to make 2 things work, and at a time where they might have not just straight up not worked. So to see it try again a couple months later, where Colossus are a little more figured out, seem to be a little more useful in this matchup, I wonder how it's going to work out. It's still a very small army in general. Just the Phoenixes can only have about so much, and the Colossus are going to need a lot more support than usual now, too. It's the biggest thing is that their damage was reduced. So their consistent good splash, especially if you can get up in higher numbers, like 4 or 6. But it's still something that if you don't have a lot of supports, a concave of Marauders will do even better than they did in Heart of the Swarm against them.
All right, and DC Monster, by the way, the guy who was trying to get the tournament/donation message out, there seems to be some issues with messaging for him. So I'm just alerting you to check your Twitch chat. I've PM'd you my email. You can just email me there. Probably gonna be a lot easier to communicate that way, anyways.
So this is potentially another problem with Phoenixes, and Phoenix Colossus, is that, well, usually Vikings were never the end-all be-all answer to this. In fact, it was really obnoxious how to play against the Heart of the Swarm. I hated playing against it personally. I only kind of enjoyed watching it. You could try and just simply overwhelm with enough Vikings, try and player that air war, target fire the Colossus first, maybe not. You could also try and outnumber them on the ground and get good positioning, and sometimes that would work. Some people actually brought missile turrets up to the front lines.
Stop, bro.
What?
Come on, it's 2016. We got Liberators now, baby.
Well, exactly. So now it is not much of an issue. Like, if you get Liberators, Phoenixes are going to clump up, and maybe it'll take into your medevac count, but that's something you're going to want to go ahead and give up to get that splash. And not only the Phoenixes, but potentially the Colossus. Like, depending on how the Protoss engages, they could all be all clumped together.
Yeah, it is worth noting that Colossus are, of course, susceptible to the splash damage as well as the anti-air effect of those Liberators. Best case scenario is always you want to have the Liberator in anti-ground mode when fighting them, but again, the dynamic of needing to clean up the Phoenix certainly comes into play. And they're continuing to produce them, so this isn't like Bales and Calibur saying, you know what, we're going 5 for a little bit of air control to stop drops and stall out anything. It is actual dedication. So my question now further is, what comes underneath this? We already have a couple Colossus, great, fantastic. This is a good style to play. We already know this to be a fact. But is it going to be a lot of Adepts? Is it going to be Charge Lots? Are there going to be Blink Stalkers? These are all very important questions to ask because Colossus alone will not win this game.
Yeah. It should be Charge or Adepts. I'm not sure which one's better. Blink can be held off on because you already have your anti-drop and your anti-air. Or you should. But again, Liberators kind of complicate things, and Stalkers might actually be the answer to get rid of those Liberators as opposed to the Phoenix against the Vikings in the good old days. And they are gonna go, rather, because it's Archon mode, for Blink first. That's just, that's going to mean the ground army is still not very strong. Adepts can tank a lot, Charge Lots can tank a lot and add a little bit of damage. So you'd have to get through another buffer rather than just the Phoenixes before you even got to the Colossus. Now with Blink Stalkers, Sims Bio do well against those. They'll go down real fast.
Yeah, so this is why... this is where questions start getting raised. Having opened with the Stargate, Blink Stalkers are your answer for catching medevacs. Okay, cool. They're your answer for sometimes getting around the Liberators. Okay, cool. But that's where you start thinking, like, why not Tempest? I think a lot of things on the ground, whether it's Storm, whether it's Charge Lots, but mixed in with Tempest and the Colossus, seems to be that composition we just don't see anybody able to deal with. Nobody can quite figure it out. And if Protoss gets to that stage of the game, unless they severely mess up with an engagement, tends to be unbeatable.
This is all pretty, hypothetical, though. We actually have not seen a game of Phoenix Colossus for months, and when we did before, it was actually just beat in the mid-game. Youngship could actually not follow through to the late game to, 6, 7 Colossus and 15 Phoenix, He just died before that could happen. So I really don't know how this is going to look. Maybe all the Liberators die super quickly, and they aren't going to help at all. I
don't think they will, though. That's the problem. Again, the anti-air they're relying on is a small amount of Phoenix and Blink Stalkers. Realistically, something like this sucks. Lots of Tempest at least lets you fortify a position and choose the engagements. It is still going to be majOr and DeMusliM who get to bounce around the map and say, no, we're fighting here because my Liberator said so.
And 4 Liberators at a time is no joke. They don't even have to really worry about Liberator range because it will be all about the anti-air. Now, they sacrificed their Marines, and I think that was only 1 medevac for a Nexus. That's worth it. That's just pure...
Yep.
Minerals right there, and you have enough barracks to produce those on 4 bases, so that's not a problem. Their upgrades are also going to be a little farther ahead. They are bothering to upgrade the ship weapons, which is nice to see. I wonder if ship weapons would be better than armor.
Well, armor... No, ship weapons I think is definitely be better, because you want the Liberators to do as much splash damage as possible, but also as much air-to-ground damage.
Yeah, I think so too. This fight is all going to be about splash, and splash is gonna end the game or the battle in one way or another within 5 seconds. So,
Splash is the greatest pro gamer of all time.
So yeah.
Splash wins games more than anyone else. I'm just saying.
That's not wrong. But yeah, I think that's the attacks are better. There's something to think about. Phoenixes are also getting their attack upgrade. Charge isn't done. That's not a lot of Blink Stalkers, not compared to the amount of fucking Liberators there are.
No. Even with the Phoenix wrapped in on the side, this is where those turrets are really nice. We saw this coming down to majOr and DeMusliM before. This is more for hitting a couple Colossus if they move forward. This is for hitting the Odd Observer if you can. But I think what's kind of interesting, and I guess we didn't really go over this, was the Liberator count itself wasn't really revealed until recently. They knew there was going to be Liberators in play, but it was a guesswork of how much. So it's 2 Tempests at a time start up immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the really important addition to Caliber and Bale's army, and now things are going to get really complicated. First of all, we saw our Terran actually siege up the Liberators. I thought they were going to use the splash, but the Phoenixes are around, so maybe that's why they're thinking ground to deal with those Stalkers. But now with the Tempest, a mothership on the way, late game Protoss is a very scary army still. It's like late game mech. It's hard to get there, but once you're there, it sometimes looks unbeatable, and I wonder if that's going to be the same situation here. Include a couple of more splash, maybe Storm, for instance, which they're getting, Archon, certainly, and maybe even a couple of Disruptors if the game goes on long enough.
Well, this attack's a little bit awkward because it is 3 different locations getting hit, 2 of which have no medevac support, so just kind of scrappy, do as much damage as you can. Cannon's going to help buy a little bit of time. That's a lot of Marauders. That's building killing units right there.
Oh, no, you don't even have to... Yeah, don't even siege them. Just go for the anti... Okay, whatever.
Well, either way, he's going to be able to deal with the Colossus if they choose to fight. Marauders should have no problem knocking down the Nexus. Again, the splash damage is not fantastic, but it is enough.
It's not large, the Colossus do have to clump up to really see it go down. But if they clump up once, then a lot of their health goes down.
One health on that Colossus, are you for real? Top side of the map, Nexus is going to get focused down. Nexus got focused down as well. Mothership's in play. Didn't even see that in the production tab. But despite the cloaking fail, 2 major mining bases just fell.
That was pretty important, yeah. 2 of the fresh mining bases, too, so where all the minerals are at. Now, it's still a position of 4 bases. They plant the other one back down, and a decent army still, too. Like, there wasn't much of an army loss for Protoss Archon. But that was a good multi-pronged attack. Still trying to continue, but not only Phoenixes, the Tempests are here, too.
Yeah, it'd actually be better not to kill these units. Just leave them stranded.
Yeah.
Eat up that supply. Didn't even realize, by the way, Bales and Caliber not only taking damage, lost a lot of supply through pylons at Nexus, so supply block pretty nasty right now. They can't actually warp in Stalkers to defend.
This type of stuff is really risky. You're not mining for like 5 seconds, but Liberators are kind of expensive, and no one's banking a lot of minerals yet, especially since majOr and DeMusliM just threw away a lot of their army. Had to replace it, so...
But that's an interesting way they've been playing, though. I want to point that out. There was, again, the whole lack of medevac play, just constantly running in, diving, and killing units. Now, this is where it gets a bit weird, because, of course, again, the Liberators are fine, and stealth is not an issue. You're Terran. You've got the scans for days. But it is the fact that you know there's going to be a lot of units clumped up underneath that mothership, and splash damage is going to be huge if the Liberators decide to go in. I've never seen it before. Mecha Crusher of Cities just warned everybody about Zombie Grove entering a bank, guys.
Oh, that's the first time you're finally seeing it.
I love it. I love it. It's a warning. Like, it came up instantly, too. There's, like, no delay on that. The second you entered in. Recall going to go off to go back home and try and defend this. It is a scary push coming out of the Terran. Once again, they were supply blocks. They didn't have a lot to do. Tempests are fantastic, but Tempests are slow. And that's where the power of these weird run-bys starts really coming in.
Yeah, they're slow, but there's not enough Marines here. Like, it's a majority Marauder drop, so they're not going to die either.
But they killed 25 probes.
That's nice. The worry always is that the game is going to go on, apparently. Like, the Caliber and Bale's army is not getting crushed here. Their economy is eventually going to force them to say, like, you know, F you, I'm going to attack you. And that might be where they end up losing when they start getting, you know, confused and hasty. But their army is not dead, and their army is still very scary. I'm not sure that majOr and DeMusliM have an answer for this. We saw this all the time in Heart of the Swarm. Poke the bear, and then you die, despite what looks to be amazing micro and drops everywhere.
Yeah, you know what? The thing I forgot about, too, is there's a Dark Shrine. We could have DTs come into effect at any point in this game, too.
Yeah, no harassment really from the Protoss in general. Like, no, like, Adept War Prisms or, you know, DTs, like you said. So I don't know if that's with that. But the main engagement does occur. The Archons get some good splash on the Vikings. The Liberators go into the anti-ground mode, or at least half of them did, but most of them died too quickly to even matter.
They didn't have any detection for this fight. I was wondering why that went so weird. The Vikings just kind of started shooting the Oracles and did nothing else. Scan comes down finally, but not before the Colossus have already annihilated most of the ground army. However,
all the Stalkers
there's no way to air.
Down.
Yeah, the Vikings will eventually tear down the rest of this.
A single tank? When did they get a tank?
I don't know, but thank God.
Yeah, it's actually doing a helpful amount. Now, it's really about those Vikings that were starting to chip away at the Colossus. There's no reinforcements. There's a War Prism. There's a War Prism back there, but a little low on that gas is the main problem. They have not been replenishing their gas geysers. They never took the 4th base gas geysers. They can just only build Zealots right now.
Oh, this is this is all kinds of awkward. These Colossus are so expensive. Losing them like this, I don't think they anticipated this. Like, this looked like they were going to win the game off this push. If there's a lot of Zealots warped in immediately on the front line, maybe they did as well. But unfortunately, the Vikings were always going to push this back, and now there's nothing to deal with the planetary fortresses around the map. This is a bit of an interesting game. GG's going to get called. And, yeah, we're going to have a TvT Grand Finals!
Woo!
Congratulations to majOr and DeMusliM. I just want to point out, by the way, like, if this was a regular tournament, like, I'd be super stoked for any 4 of these players to be in the finals. So the fact that we get all 4 of them in the finals is even better.
Should be a good TvT. But Beastie, Cutie, and Bunny looked really good in their last TvT. I'm going to give it to them.
Everyone died in the bank heist. It's true. When you enter, bad things happen.
I died as well. That makes no sense.
Yeah, because you took us all down with you.
That makes no sense.
You're like, if I'm not getting out of here, neither are you guys. You probably like cocked the gun and shot like 5 of us in the back. Damn, Zombie Grub.
Actually, I would do that. But the other ones I've lost, plenty of people have survived, so... Excuse you.
So vindictive. So vindictive. All right. Finals coming up.
It's going in my book.
majOr and DeMusliM. majOr and DeMusliM versus Beastie and Bunny. We're going to go to a commercial break. I implore and beg that you watch these ads, and we thank you guys in advance. And we'll see you for the finals. Best of 5 when we return.